Hi everyone and welcome back to this how-to video. This is going to be kind of showing how to track and kind of see how an athlete's progression in their fly 30s or close to their max speed can kind of be correlated to overall improvement in all other paces all the way out to the marathon. So just starting very basically here, the system that we're dealing with when we're dealing with the fly 30 pace is the ATP and creatine phosphate system. This is also more commonly known as the alactic system, anaerobic alactic system, because it only lasts 6 to 7 seconds. It is anaerobic. It has nothing to do with your aerobic system. And alactic because it is not producing any acid itself. It uses creatine phosphate to reform the ATPs for energy production, and that process in your body is the quickest way to resynthesize ATP, and it comes with none of the nasty byproducts that glycolysis or that speed endurance longer speed system comes with. So just as a kind of recap of some things we've talked about in previous videos, this is from the IAAF Coaches Education Curriculum. It's based on a study by Matter and Hartman that was done just last year, kind of a groundbreaking study that looks at the percentage of energy for different race distances from the three main energy systems. And it's kind of a misnomer to say three main energy systems because these are three all activated at the same time, but what mechanism is kind of recharging the ATP for the most part in these different areas. So if you're dealing with, I particularly deal with distance runners, and so this is important even for kids in those distance events to get faster in their fly 30s. So here's the percentage. Obviously, your sprinters are going to get bigger energy production from this, so your 100-meter runners are going to get 25% of their energy from this system and 70% from the anaerobic lactic or anaerobic glycolytic system, and 5% from the aerobic system, and it kind of corresponds going down. As I mentioned, if we're dealing with 800-meter runners to out to maybe if it's college 10K or something like that, in high school we're dealing with 800 out to 3,000 in track, which is the season we're in right now, or 5K in cross country. This is still a pretty decent percent, and you'll probably see most of your 800-meter coaches doing this types of workouts, your starts, your sled pulls, those types of things that are really fast energy, 6 to 7 seconds, the start and the final kick of your race. But you won't see quite as many doing it in this race distance. Now, anybody can kind of see, okay, so we don't want to throw away 5, 8%, 4% of anything, but a lot of coaches might say, well, I have a lot more other important things that we need to do. And that is true. You can always hybridize these workouts and do different things. I have some videos in the description down below to see how you can do that and make it a pretty high volume day when you do it. But just kind of an idea, this is the percent we're dealing with. So if we are dealing with this, we don't want to throw this away, but we have other things we want to deal with. The real important thing, and I'm going to switch over to the USATF energy continuum from their coaches education, we're dealing with out here, anaerobic alactic system. The real important thing here, though, isn't just the fact that relatively small percent of the energy in the 800, it's about 10%, in the 1600, a little bit less in the 2 mile, and obviously a lot less in the 5K, all the way down to 4%. We don't want to just throw that away, but that's not the most important thing here. We're not really training the system here to deal with that percentage of contribution to the race. We're dealing with other things that are important here. Strength gains. Just that idea of being able to really go when you need to, the firing of your muscles in a more synchronized way. And what's really important to note here that I haven't really focused on in any video prior to this is several studies have been done that show that as max speed, fly 30, really out to 60 meters, but essentially as your fly 30 improves, that percent of improvement is really going to almost directly correlate to that amount of improvement in all other race distances from the 800 all the way out to the marathon. Now that's really interesting because the marathon basically gets no percent from this system, but you're still going to see, say you improve your fly 30s by 2%, you'll see a 2% reduction in your marathon pace. So that kind of tells us that it goes greater than just the percent that you're getting from the race itself. And there's really kind of three key indicators that as these paces improve, other distances improve. So this one, the fly 30s, you're also going to see improvement from your special endurance. This is basically your 400-meter pace. As this improves, you see other corresponding paces improve. And then obviously your VO2 max, as this improves, other race performances improve from the 800 all the way out to the marathon. So This is kind of the important thing to take away. So if you can improve this metric by a certain percent, you're going to improve your 800, your 1600, your 2 mile, your 5K, if you're a college racer, your 10K, if you're a marathon runner, all the way out to this. If you're doing 1500 or 15 Okay, that would be this pace right around here. Those are the improvements you're going to see. So this goes greater than just that energy production. So that's sort of the important takeaway here is as you improve your Fly 30 pace, almost a direct correlation to the improvement in your other race distances. So for sort of an example here, this is from the team that I coach, Wharton High School in Tampa, Florida. Every single year at the beginning of the season, I come up with a Fly 30 progression. We do this about every week to every other week. Not as important to do this as you would see from your 100 and your 200 meter runners, where you're getting both the improvement and the contribution to the race. As we mentioned from this chart, the kids that are getting 25% here, you're going to see these kids do it 2, maybe 3 times a week, as well as the strength gains and the improvements that we were just mentioning. But these kids are still doing it every other week to every week, and that includes conditioning phase in the winter time for track, over the summer for cross country. So what I do is I go through and I make a chart, and right here I list their current PR coming into the season. And then as you can see, this happens about every 2 weeks, so every week to 2 weeks as we take it out. And I highlight their current career PRs as we track them for the week. I kind of see, so if we look at David here, his first time out, new runner went 3.46 in a Fly 30, went slightly slower this next time out. That's basically running the same time, got a little bit faster, and this last time out had this bigger improvement, as you can kind of see, as he went through a couple of adaptation phases to get faster here. Adaptation takes 2 to 4 weeks, so when here he kind of held steady, and then he saw kind of a little bit of an improvement, and then a great improvement here. So how does this sort of work with your kids? So what I've done with all of the kids that are currently in my group is I've seen what is their percent progression this year. That means either where they came into the season, or if they'd never come into the season, like with David, where did they start? So that's the percent improvement here. So we'll take 2 kids that we can kind of track, that we have races on to kind of target this, and a little bit more of a history with me. We'll look at Jared and Jackson here. So Jared came into the season, his PR in his Fly 30 was 3.21, kind of held serve, was right around that, and the last time out he went 3.16. That is a percent improvement in his Fly 30s from where he started to where he is currently of 1.56%. So what we can say is that theoretically, now obviously this is theoretical because lots of things happen in a race, he has dropped, say, all of his paces from the 800 down to all the way out to the marathon, this same percent, 1.56%. So let's take Jared's mile. Jared has a current mile PR of 4:31. If I go through and figure out what the 1.56% of that is, about 4 seconds. So I could say theoretically right now Jared could run 4:27 in a mile, a 4-second PR from where he was at the end of last season. It's kind of a nice thing to see, and you can even kind of show with your kids that what your potential is. Now, if Jared went out right now and ran 4:27, if every single time, obviously not. We know a lot of things go into races, but this is his sort of potential. What could he run based on the improvement in this? Now, this isn't the only metric. I don't want you to think that this is the only way to improve, because as we mentioned here, if you improve this, the races are going to improve, but as we're improving this, we're also going to be improving their VO2 max. That's the part of the training season we're in. Then a little bit later, when we start working on more glycolytic work, we're going to be improving the special endurance pace. So this doesn't mean that he's only going to go 4:27. Just based on this metric, this is what we could say. If we went through and we said that Jared's VO2 max has dropped a certain percent, we could also kind of make this calculation. Just kind of a way that you can track the improvement of your kids. Jackson here started the season as a PR of 3.53, and then he kind of came out, not quite there, got back to his current PR, and then last time out, well, not last time out, but 2 times out before he went 3.43. So that is an improvement in his max, not quite max pace, but almost max pace of 2.83%. Jackson came into the season with a mile PR of 4:52. If we take 2.83% of that, we've got 8 seconds. So we could say theoretically Jackson's mile right now could be 4:41 based solely on the improvement in his Fly 30, his alactic system. And as I mentioned before, Jared, just to kind of encapsulate this, you could also kind of go through and see how VO2 max percent has dropped and other things. Now, VO2 max doesn't have as much of a direct correlation, kind of a one-to-one. If you drop it this much, it's going to drop this much in the other races. But it's kind of a nice thing that you can kind of see, another way of kind of making important to your distance runners why a workout like this is important. Because here it's not as big. We are dealing with kids that are very sort of analytical. The times and the seconds really sort of matter. You want to make sure that they don't look at this and be like, it's not that important. I'm not as into this workout. I want to do more of the longer stuff and that kind of thing. You want to kind of show them and get them to buy into this. And I can say, hey, Jared, look, it's not just about being, faster. Look what this directly does to your mile time. You want to get that mile time faster. If we want to get this mile time down to under 4:25, maybe closer to 4:20, let's see if we can bring this down just a little bit more so that we can kind of comfortably say in a great race what you could end up doing. Jackson, we want to get this mile time down maybe below 4:40 by the end of your senior season here. We got to bring this pace down just a little bit more so we can comfortably say we've had that improvement. So just kind of another way that you can track metrics for your kids, how you can see these improvements, and just kind of show to have these small victories for your kids throughout the season. So if you like this video, please think about liking or subscribing. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments down below. And until next time, this has been Coachy TV.